This video was sponsored by Patreon. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. My name is Eric and I'm glad you could join us because in today's video, I'm going to share with you the entire process from start to finish on how to make South Africa's #1 meat snack, biltong. So for this video, we're going to keep things super simple. And it doesn't matter if you've ever dry cured meats a day in your life, you should be able to follow along this recipe and experience the excellence that biltong has to offer. I'm going to show you how to prepare the meat. I'm going to show you how to properly cure it. And then of course, I'm going to show you how to dry the meat. And as you can see behind me, we're not going to be using a biltong box for this recipe. Like I said earlier, super simple recipe. So without further ado, let's make biltong.
The first thing we need to do to make biltong is prepare the meat, and we're going to be using a roast known as silverside. In North America, this is called the bottom round. In Latin America, this is called the palomilla. And when I flip this over, you'll see on the opposite side of this particular roast, a silver skin strip. That's where it gets its name, silverside. So I'm just going to clean this roast up, remove the silver skin. We're also going to remove this one little section right here because it is also connected by a piece of silver skin. We don't want that in our biltong. And really, you could use whatever cut of beef you want. You know, top round is another popular choice for biltong. To remove the silver skin, we're just going to put our knife right underneath it and in one big scoop remove that entire piece, and that's what that's going to look like. So if you pay close attention, you'll see a very thin line of silver skin which separates two muscle groups. So all I'm going to do is separate those two muscles, which will expose the silver skin. We definitely want to remove that. That doesn't dry well, it doesn't break down well, it's very chewy, and so we're going to get rid of that silver skin the exact same way we did with the other one, just cutting it right on out. And then we'll just scrape off any meat that's remaining. Usually there's not very much, and there we go. There's our cleaned up silver skin. Pop that into the bin. So now we've got our roast mostly clean. Let's flip it over to the fat side and take a look at some of the fat. Most of the fat on this roast is nice and firm and great for biltong, so I leave it on. But at the very bottom of this roast, you'll notice right here where it tends to get a little soft. I don't like the texture when it dries, and so I'm going to remove just some of that softer fat. You don't have to remove the membrane because that's not going to be an issue when this dries. And so there we go. That's about as much as I'm going to remove. And there is our roast all cleaned up, and now we need to talk about how to cut it. So when you look at this bottom round roast and you divide it right about the middle, you're going to notice that this bottom section has the grain running up and down, just like that. And if you pay close attention to the top section of this roast, you'll notice that the grain of the muscle fiber is running left to right. And with biltong, we want to make our cuts with the grain. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut this roast in half, which is going to make my pieces a whole lot more manageable. And then we'll cut each piece appropriately with the grain. So let's take a peek at this particular one. And our grain is running up and down, right? And so what I like to do is just use my thumb as a guide and make that about the thickness of my biltong. That's roughly about 2 centimeters, and for me, I find that that's the perfect size as it doesn't take very long to dry, generally between 5 or 6 days to get ready, depending on how dry you want it. So we've got our lines. Let's just go ahead and cut our steaks, and this is what it looks like. You know, we've got nice, even, uniform pieces. Let's set that to the side and take a look at the other roast. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to cut this with the grain, and as you can see, the grain here is kind of running up and down, and so that's how we're going to cut this roast. And just remember, whatever cut you end up using, and you can literally use whatever cut you want, you know, eye of round, top round, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure that your cuts are always with the grain. And this is what it should look like once you're done. So let me grab this one little piece. Notice how the grain is running up and down. So this was cut with the grain because when our biltong is finished, and we slice it, we're actually going to be slicing it against the grain, as you can see right here. And so that's going to give you a really nice tender chew with a finished product. All right, now we have our roast completely done. This is that one little muscle group that we separated in the beginning. And notice this is very clear. The grain is running up and down. And so we're just going to do this the exact same way. We're going to cut this with the grain using our thumb as a guide. And there you go. That's how you prepare your meat for biltong. We're now ready to move on to the next step, which is the curing step. And notice we're taking this nice and easy. I want you to be able to follow along without any problems. But if at any point you have a question, leave it in the comment section below. So let's get on to the next stage, which is curing the meat. And I wanted to make this step incredibly easy so that you can experience the exact same success that I do. So all we're going to do is start by weighing all of our meat. My meat weighs 4,540 grams. So just head over to the recipe link in the description box below, type in the weight of your meat, and it'll automatically calculate all the ingredients that you need to add. We've got red wine vinegar and Worcester sauce. Next, we're going to add salt, and we have here whole black peppercorn. We're going to set that to the side. And then finally, we're going to have some coriander. And as an optional ingredient, I'm going to be adding red chili flakes. You can leave that out or add it. It's completely up to you. And what we want to do with the coriander is toast it. Toasting the coriander is going to do a lot of things. It's going to bring out incredible flavor, but more importantly, it's going to bring out the oils. And the oils of coriander have been shown to have antimicrobial properties. So that's going to help keep the bad bacteria away while our biltong is drying. And it's now time to grind it up. So you could use a coffee grinder, you could use a blender. I'm using a mortar and pestle. The thing with grinding up your coriander is that you don't want to turn it into a very fine powder. You want to mostly grind it up, but you still want to be able to visibly see like the holes of some of the shells. And so this is what it should look like when you're done. And at this point, your kitchen should smell amazing. I mean, coriander once toasted and then freshly ground has these nutty, floral, almost slightly fruity notes. So we're going to place that into a bowl and then go ahead and do the same thing for our peppercorn and chili flakes. Now, this particular mortar and pestle is extra large. And if you want information on this one, I'll put a link in the description box below. And just like the coriander, we don't want to grind this into a super fine powder. We do want chunks and bits in there. And so this is what it should look like when we're finished. That's about perfect. And we're going to go ahead and add that to the coriander. Okay, so our spice mix is done. Notice I'm keeping the salt separate. That is going to stay to the side. We've got the Worcester and the red wine vinegar. We're just going to combine those. And now we're ready to begin. So in a tray that's large enough to handle all your meat, you're going to place half of that red wine vinegar Worcester sauce, and then just go ahead and layer the meat. Take the other half of that liquid and then just spread it over the top and just rub them down. Once all your meat has been coated, go ahead and take your salt. Now we are going to be using 100% of this salt. The recipe that I've got in the description box below is an equilibrium recipe, so there is absolutely no way that you can over season this. So take half your salt and season the top side of the meat, and then go ahead and sprinkle enough coriander mix to make sure all that meat is coated. Once you're done, flip the meat over and then repeat the process. You're going to go ahead and take the rest of your salt and make sure that you apply it to the other side of that meat. Now remember, we're using 100% of this salt. And then what I like to do, and this is totally optional, is to reserve a little bit of that coriander spice blend and set it to the side. We're going to add that at the end of the process. Like I said, though, totally optional. You don't have to do this. If you choose not to do this, you're just going to add the rest of your coriander blend to your meat, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and place this inside of a vacuum seal bag. If you don't have a vacuum seal bag, you could use a Ziploc bag. That's totally fine as well. And because this is an equilibrium recipe, we want to make sure that no spices or no liquids remain in the pan. So all of it goes into the bag just like that. Your pan should be relatively clean by the time you're done. And now we're just going to go ahead and give it a quick vacuum seal. And like I said, if you're using a Ziploc bag, no big deal. Just try to get as much air out of it as possible. This particular vacuum sealer is a heavy-duty vacuum sealer from the sausage maker. Nice tight seal, and you could do moist or dry food. And there we have it. Our meat has been seasoned. This is the curing stage of our biltong. We're just going to take this, massage it every now and again, place it into our refrigerator for anywhere between 24 and 36 hours. Remember, you cannot over-season this, so if you let it sit a little bit longer, not a problem. After 24 to 36 hours, your meat is fully cured, and it's now time to move on to the last step, which is drying the meat. For this step, we need to get our hooks ready, and if you have plastic hooks, feel free to use those. I'm just going to be using these coated paper clips, as this is what I had on hand. I wouldn't suggest using the non-coated paper clips, as that might give your meat a funny taste. So I'm going to let them soak in vinegar for a couple minutes to disinfect them, and then we're going to weigh our meat. I'm going to record the actual weight, and then I'm going to record a target weight of 50% weight loss. Biltong can be broken up into a couple different categories, wet or dry. At 50% weight loss, you're basically going to have a wet biltong, and you may like that. At 70 or 75% weight loss, you're going to end up with a dry biltong. So in the beginning, I would suggest experimenting with the level of dryness for your biltong. For me personally, I like a 55 to 58% weight loss. That's just about perfect for me. So that's why I say start at 50%, give it a taste, and if you prefer a drier biltong, you can let it hang for a couple more days. We're going to take our reserve coriander spice mix at this point and then just go ahead and use it all up to coat our biltong. And that's going to give us a nice spice crust. And at this point, it's ready to hang. We're going to be hanging this in an area that is between 70 and 80 Fahrenheit, or 21 to 26 Celsius, and a humidity that's between 50 and 60%. A nice warm environment by a sunny window with a gentle breeze blowing over your biltong is absolutely perfect. Just make sure wherever you hang it, it's between 70 and 80 Fahrenheit with a 50 to 60% humidity. If you live in an area where those conditions aren't really possible, you might need a biltong box. And if you do and would like to see a video on how to build one, leave me a comment in the comment section below. As you can see here, I'm at 76 Fahrenheit and 56% humidity, perfect for drying biltong. And
now that our biltong is drying, let's talk about today's sponsor. This video was sponsored by the patrons of this channel. The patrons of this channel are the Two Guys in a Cooler producers. With their monthly contributions, the patrons not only help produce videos like this and the Celebrate Sausage series, which we just finished a couple months ago, but they also helped us build what is quite possibly the most extraordinary website on the internet if you're into sausage making. And if you want to see for yourself, you'll find a link for this recipe in the description box below. If you'd like to be a producer for the Two Guys in a Cooler channel, check out the link in the description box below. We try to offer a lot of value to our producers, so you're not only going to get awesome discounts from companies that you're most likely already buying from, especially if you're into dry curing meats or making sausages, but if you are a top tier producer, you get personal access to me, where if you have a question or a problem in your sausage making or dry cured meats journey, all you got to do is reach out. Usually I'll give you a quick phone call. We can get the issue sorted and you'll be well on your way. So if you want more information on how to become a producer for the Two Guys in a Cooler channel, check the link in the description box below. Thank you guys once again. Couldn't do it without you. Let's get back to biltong. Our biltong is officially ready. It's been hanging in my kitchen here for about 5 days. Most of the pieces here are uniformly cut. I do have a couple pieces that are a little bit smaller, you know, like this one. This was an end piece. This right here was another end piece. So those are going to be a little bit drier than the other ones. But for the most part, these are dried to kind of where I like them, which is between that 55%, 58% weight loss. Let's go ahead and cut into our biltong. Let's just grab this nice big fat piece. I wanted a piece with a nice level of fat on the edge here, and let's see what it's all about. Let's go ahead and taste the biltong that was dried to about 55, 58%. I mean, you've got a little bit of a dry line on top and bottom. That's characteristic of a good biltong. It's going to be a little chewy on the outside, very tender in the center. Nice looking fat cap. Smells great. Here we go. Wow. I mean, that's sublime. Very beefy. The flavor is extraordinary. And that toasted coriander is bringing all of those fruity and nutty notes that it has. A little bit of pepper, spice coming in on the back end, but nothing overwhelming. Overall, absolutely incredible. Very, very tender. And I know some of you might not like the fat on there, and you can certainly remove it, but I highly suggest you leave it on because it not only adds a lot of flavor, it adds a great mouthfeel. And that piece was absolutely delicious. I'm going to eat the other half of it. I'm telling you, if you live in North America and you're a huge fan of beef jerky, you may never look at jerky the same again after you eat this biltong. All right, let's go ahead and taste the one that was dried to about 65%. This one feels a little bit drier. It's definitely a little darker. Smells just as good, so let's just give it a taste. Wow, that is so good. I can literally eat this all day long. So both versions, very tasty. Slightly different eating experiences. The drier one, the one I just ate, is a little chewier. Now don't confuse chewy with tough because it's still incredibly tender. It just has more of a bite to it. And I do feel, you know, kind of on the front end, I'm getting more of that coriander element, and it might be a little bit spicier. And that could be because it's dried a little bit more, and the spices tend to magnify as you lose water weight. And really, after it's all said and done, biltong comes down to personal preference. And that's the beauty of making this recipe at home. You can control the dryness, you can control the flavor profile, and you can make a biltong that's custom fit specifically for you. So thanks a lot for watching this video. That's all I got for you today. If you have any questions on how to make this biltong, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. And if you're new to this channel and you liked what you saw and you want to see more, go ahead and click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can be notified of each one of our weekly uploads. If you liked this video or got anything out of it in any way, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. That is always appreciated. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.